All right, we've all been there. We've all had stages of life where we are looking at the list of everything that is competing for our time and feels like, or maybe the reality is there, that everything is important and urgent. And so we go into a panic because we can't see a way out, and we struggle with figuring out, what do I do when everything feels important? So I loved that this question came in saying, hey, what is it exactly that I should do when I have too many things that are truly important that are competing for my time? So that's what we're going to be covering here today. My name is Megan Sumrell. I am a time management expert for women, and I'm on a mission to bring work-life harmony to women all over the world through all things time management, organization, and productivity. So let's dive into this question here today on what we can do when we just have too many important things competing for our time. Now, what I'm going to be sharing with you today are 3 tips or tools or strategies that I want you to think about how you can leverage those when you are sitting in that place of competing priorities. And then at the end, I want to share a tip with you that I used frequently when I worked in a corporate setting where, work was given to me by my boss, and oftentimes I'd land feeling like there was too many competing priorities as well. So we're going to save that one for the end. Now, anytime I am looking at all the things that are competing for my time and I am feeling like there are too many that are important based on the amount of time that I have available, the very first thing that I encourage you to do is to put an actual due date, if there is one, next to each of those top priority items. Now, what do you mean by if there is one? You may have something that really feels urgent and important to you, such as, maybe there is a space in your home that is just overwhelmed with clutter, and it's urgent to you. You want to get that space cleared out because it's driving you personally crazy. But there isn't an actual external due date on this. It's not like if you don't do it by a certain date, then the opportunity's gone. Okay. But that doesn't mean that doesn't feel important to you. Now, there may be things on your list that truly do have due dates, meaning if it's not done by this certain time, there is a negative consequence or a missed opportunity. Easiest way I always use in this kind of example, think of it like a coupon, right? Coupons have expiration dates. You may have certain forms that have to be turned in by a certain date. Maybe you are applying for something and there's a deadline for the applications to get in. Maybe there is something due for school or work and it has a due date. And if you miss it, it will impact your grade or your performance. All right. So chances are there are going to be things on your list that have actual due dates and some that don't, but you just really want them done. So then you're going to actually order that list in terms of the most recent due date. What is due, the soonest to the oldest, because what this is going to help you do is help you pick which ones should I actually start on. Okay. Because they may all be important, but you may notice the reality that 3 of those things actually have to dates, maybe in the next 3 to 8 days. And so, that's going to help you decide where your time should be spent. Now, notice I'm saying we're just never going to get to the other ones. No, we're going to get there. But what we have to recognize is we can't be doing all of them at the same time. We have to make decisions on what to focus on and what to get in motion for. So that's the easiest way to kind of get that list together in a way that's going to help spotlight for you, where should you be spending your time first? Another tip that I want to share is this. I personally don't recommend ever managing more than 2 kind of urgent, truly important projects at a time. Because if you are trying to do, maybe you have 5 things going on at once and you're trying to do a little bit of each every single day, what is ultimately happening is it's going to take you much longer to get all of them done. Because anytime we do what's called context switching, meaning we're working in one space and then we have to stop and shift gears, like mentally, maybe even physically, to then go work on something else, it takes a long time for us to kind of get up into full productivity mode, and it decreases what our brain is capable of doing. So if you have, 5 different projects going on and you're jumping back and forth between them all because they all feel important, all of them are going to take much longer. Whereas if you are only kind of focusing on 2 at a time, and of course there's always exceptions where maybe you need to have 3 or whatever, or only 1, what that's going to allow you to do is really get into a better flow state and focus on just those 2 until one of them is done, and then you can be ready to bring on and introduce another one. I never like to have more than 1%, like big project that I'm working on, 1 personal and 1 work at a time. And then the other reason why it's nice to have 2 instead of of just one is sometimes my brain needs a rest from that one project. And so I can step away and then still go make progress on something else. Even though it's our instinct and our desire to be like, well, they're all important, let me just get a little bit done on all of them, would actually better serve you to say, no, I'm actually going to get these done to completion before I start working on the next one. Now, a third tip that I want to share with you, and this is really when it is a project where you know you might go down a rabbit hole and allow it to take a lot longer than maybe what you desire. And you may have this because you get distracted. It may be because you are a perfectionist. I am a recovering one, and we're always wanting to make it just a little better, make it just a little better, right? Maybe you have a presentation that you're working on and it's due on Friday, but the ultimate goal is to get the content in the presentation, right? But then you keep going back and, oh, let me tweak this slide a little. Oh, let me find a better image for that one. What I always like to do at the start of those important projects where I know I could end up spending more time than maybe I want is creating a clear definition of what does done mean for this project, right? So maybe with the presentation example, done means the core content is put up on slides in an easy to digest way, and it's got, it's using the correct template and there's no typos on it, right? Now, by taking time to think through what does done really mean, what that allows you to do is focus on hitting that definition of done. So once you've got the core content on the slides, you've proofread it, it's in the template, now you can look at, all right, what else do I have competing for my time? Do I want to go back and spend more time tweaking, refining, and perfecting? Or are there other things on my list that are urgent and pressing that it would better serve me to say, this is good enough. Done is better than perfect. And now free up the time for you to move on to the next thing on your list. And sometimes the answer might be that you do go back and tweak and refine. Sometimes it might be knowing that, you know what, this was good enough. And for this project, this is all I need. And my time is now better served working on something else on my list. Now, it's hard to do that. I know I struggle with always wanting to make sure, wanting to make everything the best that I can possibly make it. But if it means that it's at the detriment of other things not getting my attention that needs to be there, then it really isn't serving anyone. So those are just 3 things to help you kind of think about some things that you can put in place when you're in that place where everything is feeling urgent. Now, I do want to share with you a tool that I used often in the workplace, because sometimes we're in a position where, assignments are given to you, and everything, of course, in the work environment, when a boss is handing it to you, is always at topmost urgency, right? A lot of people, this will come up on our kind of live coaching calls with all of my students, is for those that are, struggling in the work environment with the boss who just continues to pile stuff on, and they're like, there's no way I can get all of this done. One of the things that I used to do when I had a boss who was just an amazing dreamer, always come up with great ideas, but then forget that maybe I was working on 3 other of those great ideas already that I was told to work on, is whenever I got to that place where I was feeling overwhelmed with not knowing how in the world this workload was going to get done, is I would either request a meeting if we were, in the same office, or do it through email, because this was before the days of Zoom and all of that, where I would outline and say, okay, here are all of the projects or tasks that are currently on my plate, and I would include with them what the project is and my best estimate of how long that project was going to take me. And then I would say, I put it in what I believed the priority order was. So if I now had 12 things on my plate from my boss, knowing there was no way they were all going to get done in the time frame he was hoping, I would list them all out and say, here are all the 12 things that you have assigned to me. Here's a rough estimate of how long I believe each one of these can take. I want to make sure that I am working in the right priority order to meet your needs. So here's what I believe it is. Is this correct? By laying the information out and communicating that way, it is a really powerful tool to help you and whoever may be assigning these priorities really level set what's realistic here, right? Because half the time I would get a response back of like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about those other 3 things. You know what? Those aren't important anymore. Let's hold off on those. This is the new most important thing. Or it would just be an eye opener, recognizing, oh wow, I have put a lot on Megan's plate and it can't all get done unless she starts working 100-hour weeks, right? So then we could look at delegation or maybe reducing the scope of those projects. So by making it a very data-driven conversation, here is everything that is currently on my plate. Here is the time I'm going to need to complete all of these. I want to make sure I'm working in the best priority order for you and the business, is a really powerful tool to help communicate and level set kind of where your energy should be focused as well. So I hope you found this helpful. Please make sure, don't forget while you're here, click subscribe subscribe so that you don't miss any new training videos that come out here from me. Have a great one.